Hey guys, this is the WalterFootball.com After Dark show for March 30th, 2023, which is going to be in an hour or so. I was going to talk about or actually review some 2023 NFL mock drafts that were published on the site by some readers, and also talk about some free agent signing grades that just happened. As you can see, we're in a new layout. I don't know how I like this because the old layout wasn't available for some reason, but I'm using this, but hopefully it works out. So there were a few signings that happened the past couple of days. The Bengals signed Irv Smith Jr. I think that I talked about this on the mock draft that Charlie, Jacob, and I did yesterday. I think this is an insurance signing. The Bengals lost Hayden Hurst, and they really want a tight end. They wanted Trey McBride last year in the second round. He didn't make it to their pick. Arizona took him. So I think they want to take a tight end early, potentially at the end of the first round. And this is insurance just in case they don't get the guy they like. I don't know who that is yet. Hopefully we'll find out soon. But if the Bengals like miss out on all the tight ends they want and they have to go with Irv Smith Jr., it's not the worst thing. I mean, he's had an injury history, but when he's been on the field, he's produced pretty well. So I like the signing. We don't have the financial details yet, but looks pretty good. I think. I feel differently about the Lions signing Marvin Jones though. It was 1 year, $3 million. Not that that's a lot of money, but for Marvin Jones, like who couldn't get open last year, he didn't produce all that well, even though Trevor Lawrence is throwing him the ball, and Lawrence was so hot at the end of the season last year. Marvin Jones, like he had like a nice game here and there, but for the most part, he couldn't get open. And at 33, it seems like his time's up. The one good thing though is that he's a veteran, and the Lions have a bunch of young receivers, so just having a veteran presence in the locker room at the position could be good. But I wouldn't count on him producing much. In fact, like I don't think he's a lock to make the roster. He could get cut at the end, but well, I mean, I think it's fine. Like you might as well just have a coach at that point. The Falcons signed Calais Campbell. This is so we don't have financial details on this either, but this is pretty disappointing for Calais Campbell. Now for the Falcons, I think it's good as long as they didn't overpay him. Campbell is on the older side. He's probably in the final year or two of his career. He used to be a tremendous defensive lineman for the Cardinals and the Jaguars. And he still played well for the Ravens past couple of years. But he's kind of on his last legs. He can still play well, but the Falcons could use someone like that. But I thought that he could come into a team ready to win a Super Bowl or contend for a Super Bowl, like the Lions or Eagles, or Niners. I'm talking about just NFC teams here, or like go to the AFC, the Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, stuff like that. I feel like he could have competed for a Super Bowl ring or help the team like get over the top. He wouldn't play every snap. He would play like 30 snaps here and there. But I think that I think that it would have been a nice signing for one of those teams. But the Falcons are not going to compete for a Super Bowl. This could get them to winning the division if Desmond Ridder pans out and Kyle Pitts stays healthy, and Drake London takes the next step. This could be like a good signing for them to win the division, but they're just going to lose right away in the playoffs. So it just feels like a wasted signing. We had some financials on some recent signings. The Jaguars signed Dearness Johnson for 1 year, $1.23 million. I thought this is a really good move. Johnson looked pretty good in that one Thursday game he played. He started in because Chubb and Hunt were both hurt for the Browns. And the Jaguars signed him for $1.123 million. It's like almost nothing. They needed a backup behind ATN. And if ATN gets hurt, Johnson could step in and do well. Kind of like him in fantasy as a late round flyer, just to keep on your roster just in case ATN goes down. The Bills signed David Edwards, same sort of deal, 1 year, $1.77 million, like not a lot at all for a guy who's pretty good when healthy. The problem with Edwards is that he has a concussion history. He could easily miss a lot of time again, like he did last year. But if he stays on the field, he's going to be a good upgrade for the Bills' interior line. The Bills needed to address this area. It was just a pretty weak spot for them. And it sounds like they're going to address center in the draft as well. Of them, Marvin Jones. The other signing is Duke Shelley, 1 year, $1.3 million. Again, this is a cheap signing. There's no risk. Shelley played well at the end of last year for Minnesota. I don't know if this was a fluke or not because he had struggled earlier in his career. Maybe he's just a late bloomer. I mean, he's 26. I guess it's not that late. And, he's still young. He's kind of small, but if he could be a potentially decent corner for the Raiders if he regresses back to 2021 form and before that. the Raiders don't really lose much. 1.3 million, not a big deal at all. A couple comments before we get to the mock drafts. Randy says Falcons having a nice offseason day. Eddie Goldman coming back from retirement. I had not heard that. The Falcons, I mean, the NFC South is wide open. The Saints are so mediocre. The Panthers are going to have a rookie quarterback. Buccaneers are in shambles. They're an old team that's going to be starting Baker Mayfield potentially. So the Falcons are there to win the division. Again, though, I don't think they can match up with the other teams in the NFC. I feel like the Eagles are much better than them. Same for the 49ers. Same for the Lions. I think the Vikings are better than them. I think the Giants are better than them. I think the Cowboys are better than them. Now, maybe you could say they're the 7th best team in the NFC. I think Seattle might be better too. So I guess anything can happen if you make the playoffs, but they're going to need a lot of luck to get pretty far once we get there. Do you have a mill and grade for the whole Ravens Jackson fiasco? Well, we'll see. I mean, they could get the 4th overall pick, so it could end up working out. I guess we'll have to see how it plays out, but I don't know. I feel like for Jackson, it's a disaster because he even said on Twitter that he got offered 3 years, 133 million guaranteed, fully guaranteed. And I'm like, why don't you just accept that? That's a tremendous contract, 133 million guaranteed. That's insane. Just take the money. I feel like he's really hurting himself by not having an agent. I understand, not wanting to give up a percentage of your income, but man, I feel like he's really hurting himself in the long run. Mike says, looks like bargain hunting time free agency. Yeah, it's usually you want to avoid the first 2 days because there's some egregious signings. You can find some really good bargain basement values later on free agency. Andrew says new rumors that Aaron Rodgers won't go to the Jets. They can't work out a deal. Packers 40-1 Super Bowl odds worth a shot. I still think he's traded. I don't think the Packers want Aaron Rodgers at this point. I think they want to start Jordan Love. I think he's going to get traded. I know they're kind of at a standstill right now, but there's a whole offseason. Scott Mason from Play Like Jet, who was on the show last week, he pointed out that Brett Favre joined the Jets in August, and the Jets had a good season until Favre got injured. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't even need that much time because he's familiar with Nathaniel Hackett, who's the coordinator for the Jets. So I feel like Rodgers could just step in. Maybe he has a rusty game, week 1 or 2. And then I feel like he's just going to take off. I think this trade could happen much later in the offseason, potentially. Let's see. Falcons signed. Calais Campbell. The Falcons signed Calais Campbell. I was really hoping he'd go to the Lions because I have a bet on them to win the Super Bowl. To go with Goldman. I haven't heard about Goldman. I'll have to check that out. It's kind of out of the house for most of the day. So, all right, let's get to some of these mock drafts. These are. I should actually show you if you guys don't know. If you're on the site and you go to. Actually, I probably don't know. Here you go. You go to community. Don't click on community, but. Click down, and then I don't know why it's doing this. You click down on it, you can see reader mock drafts, and you go to reader mock drafts. You could make your own mock draft, and it'll be featured on the mock draft database potentially. And also we have a mock draft contest I'm going to announce soon, so you guys can enter that. I wanted to look at this mock draft because it's from Bagley, who comments pretty frequently on these videos. So, and I kind of pre-screen these mock drafts. They look pretty good. I just wanted to review some of these because I thought there were some interesting picks and talk about stuff I disagree with. So kind of standard to start here. The Panthers taking CJ Stroud, Texans on Bryce Young makes sense. Cardinals, Will Anderson, if they don't trade down, I think they're going to take him. Colts taking Anthony Richardson. I feel like Richardson's going to go forth to either the Colts or the Ravens at this point. The Ravens, trading Lamar Jackson to the Colts in that scenario. 5, Jalen Carter to the Seahawks. It'll be interesting to see if the Seahawks pass Carter on his off the field stuff. Lions taking Christian Gonzalez 6, pretty standard pick. I think that makes sense. This one pick I disagree with. 7, Raiders, Will Levis. So Charlie posted an article saying that the Raiders like Richardson a lot more than Levis, and yet the Raiders still may not take a quarterback, even knowing that. So I don't think the Raiders are going to take a quarterback at this point. In this scenario, I think they take Devon Witherspoon. The Raiders really need a cornerback despite signing Duke Shelley. So that's one pick I disagree with. Falcons taking Devon Witherspoon. If he's there, that makes sense. 9 Bears, Paris Johnson. It's pretty standard. Eagles taking Tyree Wilson at 10. That would be a great pick for them if he's there. 11 Peter Skoronski to the Titans. I mean, their offensive line's in shambles, so that makes sense. 12 Texans, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I like that as well. I mean, he's the best receiver, and they really need a receiver. 13 Michael Mayer. So this pick, I guess it fills a need. I mean, you could argue the Jets need a tight end. They have like 2 like mediocre tight ends. The problem with this pick though is that I feel like tight ends go a lot later than people think. Like people always want to jam in tight end early in the draft. Like remember OJ Howard? Like people thought he'd be a top 10 pick and then he fell. It seems to happen a lot. Now, I'm not saying this can happen. If the Jets really love Michael Mayer, they could definitely take him at 13. I just think tight ends go later than people think. 14 Patriots, Broderick Jones. Yeah, they really need offensive line help. And Bill Belichick has drafted lineman from Georgia before. Packers taking Calais Campbell. Interesting pick. I've never seen this before, but yeah, I can see it happening. I don't disagree with it. Redskins taking Brian Branch. That's definitely fine. Steelers, Joey Porter Jr. I feel like that's pretty standard. I feel like they're almost locked into him at this point. That's no inside info. I just feel like that's going to happen. Lions taking Quentin Johnson. So, I mean, they signed Marvin Jones today. That's not going to affect this pick. But I feel like taking back-to-back receivers in the first round. Well, first of all, that might make people think about Matt Millen. Second, it'll be tough to pay both of them because they're going to have expiring contracts in back-to-back years. And like teams usually don't like to take the same position in back-to-back years. So that's the only reason why I don't think that'll happen. But I mean, outside of that, I think it makes sense. I just for that reason, I just don't think it'll happen. Buccaneers taking Osiris Torrance. They really need offensive line help. Seahawks taking Nolan Smith at 20. The 21 Chargers. Bijon Robinson. I don't think Bijon Robinson will get here, but if he does, I mean that's a great pick for the Chargers. They're a team that's ready to contend now, and I'm all for teams drafting running backs if they're ready to contend now. Rebuilding teams should not draft running backs in the first round, though. Ravens, Zay Flowers at 22. Vikings taking Brian Brisset at 23. It makes sense. Jaguars on Deontay Banks at 24. Makes sense to me. Jordan Addison to the Giants. I think they'd be so happy if he makes it to them at 25. Lucas Van Ness a little later than I think. He blew up the combine, but it doesn't mean he's going to go high. If he falls to the Cowboys, I'm sure they'd pounce on him at 26. 27 Mozzie Smith to the Bills. I guess I think that makes sense. 28 Bengals. Jacob would love this pick. Darnell Washington to the Bengals. It's a great fit, and as I just said a couple minutes ago, the Bengals really need this tight end. 29 Miles Murphy to the Saints. It makes sense. A little later than I see Miles Murphy, but he could definitely fall. 30 Antonio Johnson. The Eagles need a safety, so that makes sense. Usually the Eagles will draft more higher positional value than safety, but it is the end of the first round. So if they love Johnson, they take him there. And then the Chiefs Darnell Wright. I think Wright's going to go earlier in this, but if he makes it to the Chiefs, I think they would definitely love that pick. Okay, let's get to another mock draft. This one is by Tep Zeppi 88. It's his 4th mock draft. There's trades in this one, so I thought that was interesting. So it's standard CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Panthers and Texans. I feel like that's going to be in most of these mocks. But we have Falcons trading for Anthony Richardson. They gave up 844 and a 2024 second round pick. I mean, I don't know if it'll happen. I guess it could. Like, I really don't know what the Falcons are going to do at quarterback. I just said that, the Falcons could win the division if Desmond Ridder performs well. And I think they like him, but, if they love Richardson, they could definitely make this trade. It would just be weird because they passed on Justin Fields a couple years ago in favor of Kyle Pitts. And now I feel like they would go back on that strategy. It just seems like it would just be a weird thing for the Falcons, but I'm not saying it can't happen. I just think that it would just be contradictory for what they're doing. But, maybe they learned the lesson. Maybe they regret passing on Fields. Colts taking Will Levis at 4. I think they'd be disappointed with that, but if they can't trade for Lamar Jackson, it's like, what are they going to do with quarterbacks? So if he's the only quarterback left, they probably pick him. Seahawks thrilled that Will Anderson gets there at a 5, which, it could happen if quarterbacks go back to back to back to back. I'm starting to think that won't happen, but if it does, Seattle's definitely taking Will Anderson. Lions on Tyree Wilson. So this is something I had a couple weeks ago, and I actually made a mistake. I said that Charlie was mocking Tyree Wilson to the Lions a lot, and it might have been like a Mandela effect because Charlie texted me. He's like, "Hey, Walt, I love your mock, but I definitely have not mocked Tyree Wilson to the Lions at all." And I'm like, "That's so weird. I thought you did." So I went back to all of his mocks. Not that I didn't trust him or anything, but just because I was like, man, I could have sworn I saw that, and I thought like maybe Charlie's just mistaken, but no, he wasn't. He never mocked Tyree Wilson to the Lions. I don't know where he came up with that, but it was so weird. Peter's taking Jalen Carter. Yeah, I mean, if they like his attitude and they're okay with drafting him, there's one of their starting tackles is Jerry Tillery, which is just ridiculous. So they need to do something about that. Cardinals taking Devon Witherspoon in the trade down with Atlanta. I think they take Gonzalez if he's there, but maybe they've changed their mind since I've heard about that. So Witherspoon's definitely in play. Bears taking Skoronski at 9. I think it's him or Paris Johnson, probably Paris Johnson, but I wouldn't dismiss this. Eagles Lucas Van Ness, they brought him in for a visit. They like him. It makes sense. 11 Paris Johnson. I think in this mock I would swap Johnson and Skoronski, but I think both picks make sense. 12 Texans, Miles Murphy. I feel like they have to go receiver. They just have nothing there. And they're going to probably have their pick of the top 4 at 12. So I think they go receiver over Miles Murphy. Like they can get someone like Miles Murphy in the second round. Jets taking Broderick Jones, typical Joe Douglas pick. Yeah, I like that pick. Patriots Bijon Robinson. So this is, I first of all, I see this happening, but second, I would not like this pick for the Patriots just because they're not going to win this year at all. Like their division's so stacked right now. Like they're by far the worst team in that division. And not to say they're a bad team. It's just like the other 3 teams in that division, assuming the Jets get Rodgers, that division is stacked. Like it's weird. It's like if the Patriots were in the NFC, they would probably make the playoffs. In the AFC, they just have no chance. The AFC is just so top heavy with teams. And Bijan Robinson is not going to allow them, not going to let them contend with the Jets, Dolphins, and Bills. Packers taking Brian Branch, breaking the hearts of the Redskins, who take Joey Porter, who break the hearts of the Steelers, taking Brian Brisset. Yeah, it makes it's a fine pick. Lions taking Dalton Kincaid at 18. Yeah, I think with this pick, it's interesting. Like the Lions, I don't think they want to use tight ends as major pass catchers. Like it seems like they want to run like 3 and 4 receiver sets. But yeah, if they like Kincaid, I think they take him. 19 Buccaneers, Darnell Wright. It makes so much sense. They have nothing at left tackle. 20 Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jacob actually mocked this pick to the Seahawks at 20 in our 3-man mock, and you might think like, yeah, they had Metcalf and Lockett, but Lockett is in his 30s now. He's going to slow down, and they need a third receiver because Marquise Goodwin's gone. So Smith and Jigba could be their third receiver this year, and then like their number 2 after that. So yeah, I like that pick. Chargers taking Jordan Addison. It feels like Keenan Allen's going to be gone after this year or soon after. So the Chargers are in play for a receiver. 22 Ravens, Quentin Johnson. I mean, any receiver makes sense for them, I think. Vikings, Deontay Banks. They really need a cornerback. Jaguars and Nolan Smith, and another Georgia edge rusher to the Jaguars. I don't think they do this because they drafted Trayvon Walker last year. So it goes with what I was saying, like, team, like if Walker is going to command the huge contract and Nolan Smith works out, like he's going to command a huge contract too, and they're going to have to devote so much money to the same position. It's just like GMs just don't like to do that. That's not like every team. So I'm not saying it can't happen. It's just like that's some conflict I don't like to do in my mock draft. So I try to avoid that. 25 Giants, Zay Flowers. Yeah, they really want a receiver. Siaki Ika to the Cowboys. I think they take him in the second round. I don't know if he goes in the first round. He just doesn't do much as a pass rusher, but they definitely want a defense tackle. 27 Bills, Osiris Torrance. This goes to what I was saying, like about the Eagles. The Bills also value positional value, and I don't know if they go guard in the first round, especially given that they signed David Edwards and they signed another guard. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Connor McGovern. I don't think they would go guard in the first round, though. I think they'd probably go guard in the second, but could be wrong. Michael Mayer to the Bengals at 28 makes sense. Like I said, Bengals really want tight end. Aid Adebaware to the Saints at 29. It's a tough name. He was awesome in the combine. He is someone who's definitely rising, and maybe he sneaks into the first round. And the Saints need a pass rush. They had a bottom 10 pass rush last year in terms of pressure rate. So yeah, they could definitely take him. 30 Eagles, Kalijah can't see. Makes sense. Fletcher Cox is probably in his last year, so yeah, it makes sense. And then the Chiefs taking DeJuan Jones, another tackle for the Chiefs. I think you could slot most tackles to the Chiefs and have it be a logical pick. All right, let's do one more. I know this guy, No Heroes 94. He frequently posts mock drafts on the site, and he's done really well. Like he in 2021, he had 12 correct picks. Last year he had 8. So it's a good track record. So let's see what he's doing. So CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, no surprise there. And I'm not seeing a trade. So Will Anderson, yeah, definitely. And he has some great write-ups too. I definitely recommend checking them out. Colts taking Anthony Richardson, like I said, probably number 4. Seahawks on Tyree Wilson, number 5. They really need a pass rush, so I think any defensive lineman works there. Lions, Bijon Robinson, number 6. That's what we have in our mock drafts, both Charlie and I. The Lions love Bijan Robinson, and they're kind of dissatisfied with DeAndre Swift. They don't think he can stay healthy, so I think they draft Robinson or Jamir Gibbs. Like if I'll just say, for example, like if Will Anderson falls to 5, let's say like quarterbacks go 1 to 4, and then Will Anderson goes 5, and the Lions, like, let's just say like they really love Jalen Carter and they want to take him at 6. And they're like, okay, maybe we can get a running back at 18. And let's just say Bijan Robinson goes to the Redskins, for example, or the Patriots, like we saw in the last mock. I think the Lions at 18 would take Jamir Gibbs. And then after that, I believe they would trade DeAndre Swift. So if you're wondering, like, what's going to happen to Swift in this ordeal, they signed Dave Montgomery, and then he would be like the goal line hammer, like Jamal Williams was last year. And Bijan Robinson or Gibbs would be like the primary back. Number 7, Christian Gonzalez to the Raiders. Yeah, they really need a corner, so Gonzalez would be a good fit. Another mock with Devon Witherspoon going number 8. I think this is 3 in a row. I have not mocked Devon Witherspoon this high. The concern with him is there's some injury question marks with him. So, you know, guys like that tend to fall, and I have him going in the 20s for that reason. But if teams pass him medically, then he's definitely live in the top 10. I just wonder if teams are going to be concerned with his medical issues. Bears taking Jalen Carter at 9. Yeah, I mean, if he falls that far, I think the Bears scoop him up. Lucas Van Ness, number 10. Again, another mock with Van Ness going to the Eagles. It's just a great fit. Peter Skoronski to the Titans. I talked about that in the previous mock. Jackson Smith and Jigba to the Texans. I think that's pretty standard. I think a high probability of that happening. Paris Johnson to the Jets at 13. Yeah, I think that makes sense. They need a left tackle. They had Elijah Vera Tucker playing there last year because of injuries. Now, if they're really high on Mekhi Becton, you know, suddenly, and like we've seen some like pictures of Becton looking good, like working out. Maybe they pass on a tackle and go with a receiver. But I don't think they can trust Becton at this point. He's just been such a letdown. He can't stay fit. So I'm definitely on board with mocking a tackle to the Jets. Quentin Johnson to the Patriots. They signed Juju Smith-Schuster, but they still really need a receiver. So yeah, Quentin Johnson would be a good pick for them. Miles Murphy to the Packers. They need to upgrade their pass rush. They had to blitz a lot last year because they couldn't get to the quarterback. Joey Porter Jr. to the Redskins again. So the Steelers would be upset about that, I think. Okay, 17, Will McDonald to the Steelers. This is the first mock with Will McDonald going in the first round. He definitely has the talent to get there. I wonder if he's like maybe he's like a little small, and like teams are wondering if he's like kind of a tweener, but I think that he definitely has the talent for that. And the Steelers would love another pass rusher to go with TJ Watt, because they were 8-2 with TJ Watt last year, but they were like 1-7 without him. So they really miss TJ Watt. Like if Watt goes down again, they really need someone to step in. So McDonald could do that. And then when Watt's healthy, you would have him and McDonald. Like that would be insane. Lions taking Kalijah Kancey at 18. Sure. Buccaneers landing Will Levis at 19. I think that there's a good chance Will Levis falls. Just so much downside with him. Like his accuracy issues. He has no touch on the ball. And I know he has huge upside, and that's why he might go in the top 10. I have him number 11, so I think he can definitely get there. But out of all the 4 quarterbacks, I think he has the biggest chance of falling. And if he does fall to the Buccaneers, they would not pass on him because they have Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. Like, no way. They would be really interested in him if they like him. It's just any quarterback. I think if they like any quarterback, I think they take him in 19. Here's another receiver to the Seahawks, but a different one, Jordan Addison, 20. And I said this before, you can order the 4 receivers in any order, and I think they could go that in that order. I think Jacob said he had he bet. I don't want to like put words or a bet in his mouth, but I think he had Zay Flowers to be the first receiver chosen at 8-1. It was some receiver. It might have been Jordan Addison, but I think he had good odds on that. And like any of these 4 8-1 seems pretty good. 21 Chargers, Brian Branch. They need a safety to go with Derwin James. They're pretty weak over the middle of the field. So if Branch gets to them, I like the pick. Zay Flowers to the Ravens again. We've talked about that before. Another mock with Vikings taking Deonte Banks. Their cornerbacks are so bad. I know they got they signed Byron Murphy from the Cardinals, but they really need 2 more corners, and a corner at 23 makes sense for them. Jaguars again. This is another Nolan Smith to the Jaguars pick. And who knows? Like maybe they love this guy. And obviously they've gotten a close look at him when they were scouting Trayvon Walker. So it would violate that rule I said, but if they absolutely love him, they're not going to pass on him. It's just like teams tend to not like doing that, but it's obviously happened before. The Giants taking Osiris Torrance. I think they'd rather have a receiver, but if all of them are gone, offensive line it's pretty logical because they really need to protect Daniel Jones. Like Daniel Jones finally had a good offensive line last year, and he had his best year, but they could still get better on the offensive line. So Torrance, it's a good pick. Dalton Kincaid to the Cowboys. I think Cowboys want to take a tight end at the end of the first round. I don't know which one yet. Hopefully we'll find out. But I think tight end is the position they're going to take. Bill's taking Darnell Wright at 27, so they'd slide in one of their tackles into guard, which could work. I would assume Spencer Brown. I think this is a way to address guard by taking a higher positional value. So I actually like this pick better than the other mock. I think they had him taking Osiris Torrance. I like Darnell Wright a lot better to the Bills. Sam Laporta, another tight end to the Bengals. Like I said, like you could mock Laporta, Darnell Washington, Kincaid, Michael Mayer. I'm sure I'm missing a couple others. The Oregon State tight end, his name escaped me right now. Musgrave, Lucas Musgrave. You can mock any of those tight ends to the Bengals at 28 and have it make sense. But hopefully we'll have some answers on which one they like. Saints taking Michael Mayer at 29. I wouldn't be in love with this pick. It could happen. I'm not saying it can't happen. I feel like the Saints have so many other needs that to spend a pick on a tight end when they already have Juwan Johnson, I think that would be a mistake. But they could do it for sure. Eagles taking Jamir Gibbs at 30. I think they want Bijon Robinson at 10. So if they don't get him, taking Gibbs at 30 would make sense. The Eagles are typically a team, like I said before, they don't like to take low positional value in the first round, but they're ready to win now. And looking at this pick, there is no other player who helps them win this year more than Jamir Gibbs. Bijan Robinson, obviously, if he's available at 10, but Gibbs at 30 helps them win this year. more than any other player. So I think the Eagles would violate the rules to take Gibbs, kind of like the Chiefs violated the rules to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round that year. Like Andy Reid, it comes from that Andy Reid school of thought where, you don't take running backs in the first round. But he took Edwards-Helaire because the Chiefs are ready to win now. They were ready to win now. And that pick didn't work out. But it didn't work out because Edwards-Helaire is a running back. It worked out because it didn't work out because Edwards-Helaire just sucks. So if they had taken a good running back, the Chiefs, they'd be looking pretty good. Or I mean, they won 2 Super Bowls, but they'd be looking even better, I should say. And then the Chiefs drafting Broderick Jones. I think he goes earlier than this, but who knows? Like guys fall all the time. I remember Juwan Taylor was supposed to go like top 12 or something, and he fell to the second round. So yeah, if Broderick Jones falls for some reason, and he's kind of raw, so maybe he will fall. I think the Chiefs would take him at 31. So I like that pick. Okay, yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed looking at those mock drafts. If you guys make your own mock draft and want me to review it in the future, maybe I'll do this once every couple weeks or so. Send me an email. It's wpc112@gmail.com. It's at the bottom of the website. Or send me a direct message on Twitter or Facebook, and then I'll see it. So I can do that. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. Not sure if we'll have a guest. I was talking to Kenny today to see if he could come on, and he was tied up, so maybe next week. Yeah, like I said, not sure if we'll have a guest, but if we don't have a guest tomorrow, I think I'm going to review free agent team grades that I'm working on. So we can do that tomorrow. Mike saying good mocks. Yeah, I thought they were all really good. Disagreed with like a pick here and there, but overall I thought they were pretty solid. So I'm glad I chose those. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow then.